Hi everyone, welcome back to another video, and today I'm going to talk about a very common piece of advice that you've probably heard at some point, and that is to keep your head down through impact. And in my opinion, this is probably the worst piece of advice you could give to someone, and today I'm going to demonstrate what would really happen to your swing if you did that, and to debunk this myth and show you what you actually have to do to get you to hit the ball better. So we've all seen that golfer, someone who always just appears to lift their head really quickly in their follow through, and they always tend to hit the top of the ball or hit the ball heavy. If you were to give them the advice of keeping their head down, it may work up to a certain extent, but it's not a real long-term solution, so here's why. So if you were to keep your head down too long into the follow through, what would tend to happen is that your shoulders and your hips become too forward bent in the follow through. Now, being forward bent can cause a number of issues, but there's two main points that I want you to consider. So the first point is that being too forward bent prevents the club from coming away from the ground. So players who are in this position will also tend to bend their arms too excessively and have a hard time with extending their arms. There's a little experiment that you can do to help you understand this, but you can just grab a club, get into your normal setup position, and stay forward bent while keeping your arms straight. And if you do this, you'll notice that the club will just drag along the ground. There's no way for the club to come away from the ground unless you bend your arms. So the second point that I want to share with you is players who are too forward bent and turned into the follow through put themselves in the most prone position for injury, especially in the lower back. So if your plan is to play this game for a long time, you really don't want to do this. Instead of telling someone to keep their head down, what you should really be telling them is to get their weight more into their lead side, which would look something like this. So when I pause the video into the extension, you'll notice that my shoulders and my hips are now more extended rather than flexed forward. So if you take a look at an image of Nick Faldo throughout his career, on the left you can see that he's a lot more forward bent and his head stays down longer, but as his swing got better throughout his playing career, you'll notice that he starts to get more bent backwards or more extended, and his head actually tends to look more towards the target. So now the key to doing this correctly is to keep your head relatively still as your lower body moves more towards the target. If you can do that, your spine will tend to extend backwards more and your weight will go more into your left side. So if we go back to the example that I showed you, where you just got into your setup position, you kept your arms straight and you just kept forward bent for as long as you can into the follow through. So instead of bending your arms to get the club away from the ground, when I thrust my hips forward or more towards the target, I'm able to bring the club away from the ground without having to bend my arms. So this position will allow for the low point to get more in front of the golf ball. So instead of being in a position that is prone for injury and limits my club head speed, I am now in a position that will help me control my low point better, that will allow me to produce more club head speed and put my body in a much healthier position as well. Okay, so thanks for watching. I hope this video gave you some perspective on some of the advice that's being thrown around out there. And if you like this video, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more golf content in the future. See you on the next one.